What are the signs of ovulation? How do you actually know that you're ovulating? Hi guys, welcome to my channel. It's me NG and I'm a medical doctor and YouTuber based in Nigeria. So today we are going to be discussing ovulation. What are the signs of ovulation? How can you know that you're ovulating? So if you don't really know the actual ovulation day, probably from the calculation from your menstrual cycle, then there are clear-cut signs that you're ovulating. Before we dive into the main matter of the day, we're going to discuss the physiology of, the menstrual cycle and all that. There are three phases: the follicular phase, ovulation, and the luteal phase. And we are going to take them one after the other. So in the follicular phase, follicles are released from the ovaries. A lot of follicles are released, and these follicles actually secrete estrogen. Okay, so the estrogen being secreted actually sends a negative feedback on the pituitary gland. And what this feedback mechanism does is to stimulate the pituitary gland to reduce FSH production. FSH is the follicle stimulating hormone that is released during this follicular phase. Once the negative feedback mechanism stimulates this reduction in FSH production, then that would help in selection of one follicle out of all these follicles. So there has to be a dominant follicle that would now continue its journey in this menstrual cycle phase. This dominant follicle continues to produce estrogen, and by the end of the follicular phase, which is like roughly an average of 14 days, this estrogen production reaches its peak, okay, which causes an LH surge, that is production of the luteinizing hormone from the pituitary gland, and that's, starts up the next phase, which is ovulation. This luteinizing hormone, which is the LH, is usually the hormone that is detected when you do the ovulation predictor test, alright? After ovulation, the corpus luteum is formed, and that brings us now to the luteal phase. The corpus luteum continues to produce progesterone for a certain period of time, and if fertilization doesn't occur, the corpus luteum dies, progesterone level drops, okay, and the uterus now senses this and bleeding starts, which is menstruation. Also, the pituitary gland senses this drop in progesterone and now stimulates the production of FSH, which now brings us now to another menstrual cycle. So if you have like a regular 28-day cycle, then you're meant to ovulate on the 14th day. Or whatever your cycle length is, you subtract 14 from it, and the result is the day you're meant to ovulate. But in this video, we're going to be discussing the signs, okay? Things that you could see and you know that, oh God, I'm ovulating. So the first one here would be change in cervical mucus, all right? So this cervical mucus is like discharge that comes out from your vagina just before you ovulate. And what's the nature of this discharge? The discharge is usually a clear one, okay? It's clear, slippery, and thin. It's not a yellowish or greenish discharge. So you have to really know these features, or things that could differentiate this cervical mucus, okay, when you're ovulating, from abnormal vaginal discharge. Okay, I discussed about abnormal vaginal discharge in a previous video, so go watch the video, to know the different types of discharge that one could have and the ones that are abnormal and normal. Back to what we were discussing. The cervical mucus is meant to be thin, slippery, and clear. Okay, just like the egg white. And when you see that, yes, it's usually a pointer that you're ovulating. The second one would be your basal body temperature. When you're ovulating, your temperature is slightly higher than what it's meant to be. So it's like 0.5 to 1 degree centigrade higher. And how do you check this? So when you wake up in the morning, just before getting out of bed to shower or eat, you take your digital thermometer and you check your temperature. After checking your body temperature, then you record the results for several months, okay? And note down the day in your cycle that there's usually this slight temperature increase. So that is most likely your ovulation day. But, the twist here would be that you shouldn't really note down like anytime you're having like a high temperature, because you have to really be careful and accurate in this record keeping. So you have to exclude days that you're having fever, from one febrile illness or the other, like malaria. So you wouldn't, maybe you're menstruating, and just after menstruating you started having like this high grade fever, loss of appetite, nausea, vomiting. That is not ovulation, my dear. So you might need to go to the hospital to get a check, do some tests to rule out the cause of the fever. But like in ovulation, the temperature increase is not meant to be like very high. So it's just like a slight, it's like just feel your body a little bit warm when you wake up in the morning. Just that slight temperature increase, and you note down the record and do that for the different months. And that's usually, then just note down the day you have this. That is most likely your ovulation day. The next one would be the mid-cycle pain, known as Luteal schmerz. So this is like a German term for mid-cycle pain or ovulation pain. And what is this? It's like when you feel that, probably like a sharp pain, okay, during your menstrual cycle. It's usually a sign, okay, that you're ovulating. Then last but not the least would be other signs, okay, that could show that you're ovulating, such as, bloating, you feel like the fullness in your abdomen, tenderness in your breast, mood changes, you might just feel moody, or, feeling not so happy. Okay, that may be a sign, okay, that you're ovulating. So these are the things that you could check. And if you've actually noticed any of these, then that means that you do know one or two signs of ovulation, and you wouldn't miss your ovulation day. And that brings us to the end of this video. Hope this video was a helpful one. Hope you stayed up to the end of this video. So I'll be seeing you guys in my next one. Bye.